Do you enjoy that kind of experience?
I'm.
Do you feel like sentimental about it?
Well, you know that I'm not. I'm going to say no. I'm not a very sentimental. I'm a sentimental person, but really behind closed doors. Really, really closed doors.
Like there's a door, and then there's another one, and then there's a padlock that you have to. It's like escape room, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. An escape room, but except you have to escape into the space. Welcome back to English and Beyond, our special 50th episode, so a little bit of an anniversary. As always, you can find the transcript online and free vocabulary flashcards to help you practice all the vocabulary that you hear in today's lesson. César, how are you?
I'm good. But first of all, congratulations. You've reached middle age, I guess, for this podcast.
Yeah, 50
episodes.
And recently, actually...
That's quite a milestone, I have to say.
That is quite a milestone, thank you. Well, I thought that we could do this episode basically on that milestone, on reflecting about having gotten to that point. Because it's actually not just 50 episodes, it's also I've just passed a year, or we've just passed a year. Because it is almost entirely... with you. My idea of having special guests every week has proved to be much more difficult when I end up doing these podcasts last minute every week. Yeah. So it's very hard to organize.
It is difficult for me as well for the advanced Spanish podcast by Spanish language coach to arrange the date with guests. It is difficult.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose that, obviously I know you best of anyone really. And I think that we have had some interesting conversations, and I thought it would be a nice time to, people tell me that we've had some interesting conversations. So I thought it'd be a nice time to reflect on what we have talked about so far, what your experience of doing your first podcast in English has been, because you've got how many podcasts do you have now?
4 in Spanish.
4 in Spanish, exactly. And then you've got this one in English, and then you kind of help me with the intermediate one as well, in English as well. So intermediate level English podcast.
And there's something else coming up.
There is something else coming. I'm editing at the moment our friend Franziska's German podcast. But is that what you're talking about?
You just announced it like that without any hype.
Whatever. I did do hype. But that could be coming, September 2026 at this point. I've edited in about 2 months, half an episode. So I don't think that is going to be imminently available on Apple Podcasts. But to mark this occasion, I thought, as I said, that we could take a trip down memory lane. So, a lot of the time when people do these things, they say, "Oh, isn't it amazing how we've come such a long way?" With anything that they do, that they're reflecting on. Do you think that we've come a long way with the podcast, César?
Define coming a long way.
Well, that's up to you to define. That's the point.
Is it like achieving big success? It is like being able to do something consistently.
Well, I think that's
I think you've learned a lot. I've learned a lot as well, because obviously it's different to do a podcast in a different language. I'm glad that I overcame. Well, I think at the beginning I was slightly anxious about doing a podcast in a different language, but at the end of the day, we are language teachers.
Yeah.
So we need,
you have to put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly.
What does that mean?
You have to talk the talk and walk the walk, right? Yeah, exactly. You have to do what you say.
Exactly. There's no point saying, oh, you have to be confident, you have to not worry about mistakes, which in this week's episode of The Intermediate, I have done literally that. I've been like, it's really important to talk whenever you can. Don't worry too much about making yourself look stupid. And then I agonize in the Spanish one that I am making myself look stupid.
But you are very aspirational for many people who listen to you in Spanish on the Spanish podcast. Because we've got many people from English-speaking countries who are like you and want to reach the advanced level that you have at the moment. So
at the moment, what does that mean?
Because you're going to get even better. You're going to be advanced, extra, super,
as opposed to decline. Because languages, you do decline in languages, don't you, if you don't practice.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm hoping that if anyone... Oh, the coffee.
Once again, I'm going to have to beep you.
Spilling the beans.
That's quite a good pun, actually. Yeah. What does spilling the beans actually mean?
It means criticize someone or just disclose the elephant in the room, like talk about no one was talking about, something like that.
You're mixing metaphors a lot.
Okay.
It doesn't mean to criticize someone. It means to spill the beans is just to tell a secret.
Tell a secret.
Yeah,
okay,
reveal a secret.
Okay, I thought it was more related to criticize someone.
No, so if I know that you know something and I want to know what it is, I could be like, come on, César, spill the beans, tell me. But you have spilled coffee beans there as well, so a nice little pun.
So to your question, I think we came a long way because firstly, most people stop doing the podcast after 3-5 episodes.
Yeah.
So
I got an email for my intermediate podcast because the advanced one it was a bit of a false start because a lot of people started listening to it from the beginning because we advertised it on the Spanish podcast. And so people came over but a lot of them were kind of they weren't actually even learning English, that they already spoke English because they were learning Spanish as native English speakers, but they came, I think, out of interest to hear you speak. But with the intermediate one, we haven't announced it anywhere. And so it's having very organic growth and it's actually kind of very, very pleasing in a way. I'm very happy with it. But it's funny because I got an email from someone wanting to help me grow the podcast, being like, do you know how successful you are? Because you've managed to make it to episode 5 and almost no one does.
Well, but it is true. Yeah, there's a huge cemetery of podcasts. Yeah. So obviously, anyone creating content on the internet, they want to be seen or they want to be heard. And it's quite pleasing to see that the podcast has grown, that you've got like loyal listeners as well, people who send you feedback, recommendations. You even have haters already, which is amazing.
Not
only one year.
Very few. Only on one episode.
Yeah.
On one episode, the episode that we did with Emma about pronunciation, it is true that it was actually unusual because I've never received any negative comments, and then on that episode I would say that the negative comments outweighed the positive ones, which was a bit of a shock. But I guess it just shows that because that episode had way more views on YouTube than all of the rest, it just goes to show how toxic the internet can be. Do you have any episodes that are particular highlights for you? I'm really sorry if anyone listening. I mean, you are, I suppose, going to be practicing your English in this, but it's becoming like quite a navel-gazing reflection on ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I think my favorite ones are the ones you did with your mom and with your dad.
I was actually going to say the same.
Yeah.
And not to insult you because you're not in those episodes. Although you're in the back. You're listening.
Yeah.
Supporting,
but
I was
really producing them.
You were producing them, yeah. I really like those episodes because they're kind of a time capsule. You know, one of my brothers actually said to me that he thought it was a really nice thing for him to listen to because my parents are quite old and I know that my dad listens. So, but in any case, one of my brothers was saying how much he liked having that to listen to. For both of our parents, that, as I said, it's like a little time capsule. It's something to remember.
Plus, you can ask questions because obviously you don't mind asking questions to your parents. No.
You can actually say asking questions of your parents or just asking your parents questions.
Okay.
It's a bit formal to say asking questions of your parents, but
and obviously you are quite talkative and you ask your parents questions, but when you are doing like a little interview, you think about it. And when I did my interview with my dad, you know, I learned things from him and his family, my family, that I didn't know. So it's quite nice. And I also like listening that kind of podcast when I listen to a podcast and, you know, I can hear from them a little bit more, more intimate stuff. From their background. Is quite interesting. I
think my dad was quite relieved that because I have a tendency to ask him quite invasive questions,
like who's your favorite child.
Well, no, but that's nothing in comparison. Obviously, I did ask him that, didn't I? But I would say that, you know, I'm really interested in what my parents' lives were like when they were young. So I'm talking about like,
born.
yeah, exactly. Early boyfriends, early girlfriends. I find that really interesting because I suppose that I'm really interested in kind of counter history, counterfactual histories, you could say, of things that didn't happen but could have happened. And I think that with my parents, I'm interested in that as much as I am interested in the actual details of their lives of what did happen, if that makes sense. But my dad, I think that he, especially when I was a teenager, I think he found me very provocative. And so I think he was quite relieved by how pleasant that interview was in comparison. Any other episodes that you've been involved in that you've enjoyed?
I think the first one was quite fun to record, and obviously we didn't know what was going to happen with the podcast. The first one I enjoyed as well, and in general I like how the podcast format has been changing, and
Well, yeah, because we started every episode with a speech, which in an ideal world I would still do because I like that mix of kind of monologue with advanced vocabulary and then a very natural dialogue where the difficulty comes from two people talking over each other or talking quickly, that kind of thing. So, I mean, in an ideal world I would have both still, but it just needs must in terms of time. So it's not something I've been able to do so much. I really liked the episode about teeth. Yeah, I find teeth very interesting, so I enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, it's a bit like an obsession of you and your mother.
It is a small obsession, I would say. That's true.
How are you finding Spanish dentistry?
Well, I have now been once, and it was a very Spanish experience because, you know, dentists always talk to you a little bit when they've got their fingers in your mouth anyway. But she was having like a full-on conversation with her assistant while she had her fingers in my mouth. But she was, a lot of the time, like in the UK, they would kind of take the fingers out for you to talk or whatever. But he's just kind of carried on. It was a bit like we managed to have a conversation where I was unable to say anything. Exactly. And so it was an interesting experience, you know. It was what they were saying was very Spanish, you know, where they just say, they give me way more information about their lives than the equivalent dentists in the UK would.
Yeah. Same.
But it was enjoyable.
Do you like this is like the anniversary podcast episode? Do you like anniversaries in general? Like celebrate your birthday or our anniversary as a couple? Do you enjoy that kind of experience? Do you feel like sentimental about it?
Well, you know that I'm going to say no. I'm not a very sentimental. I'm a sentimental person, but really behind closed doors. Really, really closed doors.
Like there's a door and then there's another one and then there's a padlock that you have to... It's like escape room, basically.
Exactly, yeah. An escape room, but except you have to escape into the space. I can't explain why. I don't know what it is. It's not.
Is it not your Britishness?
Who knows? But there are lots of British people. I mean, I think it's very outdated, that idea that British people don't express emotion, the stiff upper lip. British people, I think, are very emotional. You only have to watch, you know, reality TV to see that people are not like they used to be, or at least not like our perception of how they used to be. I don't really like anniversaries. I don't care about birthdays, but I never ask for gifts nowadays, never really want gifts, never expect them. And in my family, in fact, we never buy gifts for anyone.
But you do the cards thing, which is very British.
We only do the cards occasionally for my parents. That's it. I can't. Sometimes my parents send me a card, but I've not bought a card or anything for my siblings for a long time. Because I suppose it is very in keeping with my mindset in general that anniversaries don't really matter to me very much, because the thing that matters is the daily engagement. So if you have a terrible relationship with your siblings, then once a year you send them an amazing gift. Ironically, I think outside that can sometimes make your relationship look a lot better than it actually is. Whereas our relationship on the outside on birthdays and anniversaries probably looks quite bad. But then it's, you know, I think it's a very good relationship on a daily basis, if that makes sense. I'm more interested in the continuous thing than in marking special occasions, because every day is a special occasion.
Absolutely.
That's not with you. So that I would say. I don't know, what about you?
I don't particularly like celebrating my birthday because I don't like being on the spotlight, despite having 4 podcasts.
Being in the spotlight.
Sorry?
You don't like being in the spotlight?
Being in the spotlight, okay.
Do you want to record again?
I don't particularly like celebrating my birthday because I don't like being on the spotlight.
In the spotlight?
In the spotlight. I don't particularly like celebrating my birthday because I don't like being in the spotlight.
On the spotlight. I'm joking.
Yeah, I don't like being in the spotlight despite having 4 podcasts. So I remember when I was like 18, for example.
Yeah.
I kind of discovered that they were going to throw a party in my honor, like a surprise party, and I cancelled it. I was like, no, I don't want this. Then when I turned 28, they did it, and it was actually very nice with my family, very moving as well. And I mean, it's not a big thing. Like, I don't think you've ever forgotten our anniversary, but if you did, or if I did, I wouldn't feel bad about it either, because I don't think it's a big thing.
No,
I don't consider anniversaries that important.
No, but we joke about it a lot.
Yeah,
because I actually think that we spent very few of the anniversaries together. No, like just because I mean, well, things come up, don't they? So you've been in Spain for a lot of the time when we were living in London, that kind of thing, and we might be like, oh, you've abandoned me for the anniversary. Yeah, I think that's the closest we get to making a big deal out of it.
Yeah. Plus, for couples, what is normally their anniversary? Is it the first time, like the day they met? Is it the first time they kissed? The first time they go to the cinema?
I would say, I think for
their wedding anniversary.
Every partner I've ever had, it's been the day that we met.
Okay.
Or at least met and actually it's been the day. Oh, that's actually quite complicated because I've had that's totally not true what I've just said, because for my first partner, it was we met about like 7 months before what became our anniversary, which was the date of our first proper date. Okay. For the second one, it was actually kind of the same. I had a first date and it was successful, but basically for various reasons we decided not to.
Did you kiss him?
Did I kiss? Yeah. and then didn't call him again, basically, or didn't text him, and then we met each other again, and then from then it was perfect, and that second time became the anniversary. I think I can't remember what the anniversary was, to be honest, for either of them. And then for you it's when we met. No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, César, on that note, let's sign off. So thank you very much for accompanying me on these 50 episodes of the podcast.
Thank you, and happy anniversary.
A happy anniversary to you too. Until next time. Oh, and happy anniversary to you, listener.
Yeah.
If you've been here from the beginning, thank you, Dad, for listening from the beginning. And until next time, I guess. Anything else?